This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil. And for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test.
And two, that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground-truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free.
On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions and ideas that made you stupid. These are narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are. Narratives based on conjecture history and those that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome, AX and CS.
Thank you.
Santi, having listened to the President give historic speeches this past week, we commence by reflecting on a few insights from the President's speeches, and we will illustrate our arguments with the help of a book titled Adapt by Tim Harford. In Chapter 2, he tells us about conflict and how organizations learn, and he highlights how key mistakes were made during the American invasions in Vietnam and in Iraq. It is observed that in both cases, it was almost impossible for dissenting ideas, especially from the battlefield, to penetrate the war rooms at the Pentagon and the White House. A study of the decision-making by U.S. leadership during the Vietnam War was conducted and published in a book titled Dereliction of Duty by former U.S. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, based on his PhD research. It reveals how the ideal hierarchy can backfire and fail when the wrong decisions are taken by a team all pulling in the wrong direction, and the chain of command serving as a perfect barrier to the upward flow of vital information. Johnson talked only to his political advisors, and his decisions gave him short-term political success but eventual military disaster. H.R. McMaster concluded that between November 1963 and July 1964, Johnson made the critical decisions that took the U.S. to war almost without realizing it. President Johnson and his Defense Secretary, Robert McNamara, created an echo chamber, partly because Johnson was a man eager for reassurance and disliked debate, while McNamara was the quintessential yes man, soothing Johnson at every step and ruthlessly enforcing Johnson's request to only hear a single voice. Shortly after having the presidency thrust upon him by John F. Kennedy's murder, Johnson made it clear he wanted to talk to the military only through McNamara, not even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Johnson even sacked 3 military aides because he said they got in his way. Johnson and the advisors he chose saw Vietnam from a purely political sense and not what was good for country. And his new advisors would go into the same after they had harmonized their views and told Johnson only what he wanted to hear. This came to be known as the McNamara-Johnson Doctrine of Unanimous Advice. It was dangerous because it was a doctrine which rejected to include the voice of others, which led to a failure and refusal to adapt. In contrast, the Uhuru Kenyatta handshake doctrine demonstrates the heroic courage in adapting and listening to dissenting voices. The handshake doctrine is essentially a doctrine of inclusion. Studies have shown that part of the basic usefulness of hearing more ideas is that better decisions emerge from a diverse group.
With the strength and courage to be able to stand up and fight and advocate for peace, even when those nearest to you would prefer the easy way out of people warring and fighting with each other. Mimi nataka niwaeleze Na nilisema leo asubuhi na nitarudia hapa ya kwamba handshake ambaye tulifanya na baba haikuwa rahisi. Kuna wengi ambao walikuwa wananiunga mkono, ambao walikuwa wanasema siwezi kufanya hiyo handshake. Kuna wengi ambao walikuwa karibu pia na Raila, ambao walikuwa wanamwambia huwezi kukaa meza moja na huyo Uhuru Kenyatta. Kweli ama sio kweli? Na hata wengine wamekaa hapa mbele yangu leo. Sitawataja lakini wanajijua. Hata wengine wale ambao walikuwa wananiambia nisiende kuongea na Raila, na waona hapa tu.
What those who were opposed to the handshake did not realize is that the right decisions are more likely when they emerge from a clash of very different perspectives. The president told us that even if it is unheard of elsewhere to have a government that works together with those across the political divide, he would still do it if it means peace and development, through leaders pulling together in the right direction. If President Uhuru had, however, adopted the McNamara-Johnson doctrine of unanimous advice offered by those who preferred him to Kangumu, then the trajectory of peace and development would have remained a utopian dream instead of being what it is now, a lived reality which we all enjoy. Because the president adopted the handshake doctrine and he sat with Raila in the spirit of peacemakers, by doing so, President Uhuru avoided a dereliction of duty, the duty to unite the country, which is a constitutional duty. It only makes sense that a grateful nation shall remember him for it. Take it or leave it.
Wow. Okay, so all politics is warfare, and Sun Tzu teaches us that in warfare, he who will win knows when to fight and when not to fight. But how does one know when not to fight back? When they lack the capacity for victory, or put simply, when they lack the resources for victory. And given the events of the last 2 weeks, I believe that this applies to William Ruto. Why? Because his response to the Azimio blitzkrieg was to run away with his tail between his legs. And I can't help but wonder if Ruto ran away not because he has chosen not to fight, but because he couldn't fight back. And I say this because the opportunity costs of his departure are, from a bird's eye view, far higher than any benefits he may accrue. According to Malcolm Turnbull, the former Prime Minister of Australia, opportunity cost is the idea that once you spend your money on something, you can't spend it again on something else. Therefore, opportunity cost is the value of the path not taken. So, what does Ruto risk in leaving, and what does Ruto gain by running away? In leaving, could Ruto be subjecting himself to a potential sealed warrant of arrest by the ICC? Remember that Bemba was arrested whilst visiting his family in Brussels, and that Pinochet was arrested while seeking medical treatment in London. So, is it possible that Ruto has delivered himself to the ICC like a chicken dinner, much like his friend Paul Gusheru, who is currently on trial? And you know what they say about birds of a feather. Now, domestically, the fact that Ruto hid from his enemies like a goat at Ramadan suggests that he has surrendered the one thing he needs to secure the presidency, GEMA, to his political enemies. These are the opportunity costs of Ruto's departure to the US and the UK. Given how he has risked not just his personal freedom, but his political standing in the 2022 election to leave the country, what is the value of the path taken? What does he hope to gain? 2 words: breathing space. Only God could have countered the impact of the blitzkrieg that was Sagana 3, Jubilee's NDC, and ODM's NDC back to back to back. And I say this because the man from Sugoi tried and failed, as evinced by his counter-rally in Nyeri on Saturday. The only people who provided extensive coverage of this event were the Star. Now, is it possible that the Star's interest was motivated more by who owns Radio Africa than the quality of the event or the necessity of the coverage? I'd leave that up to you. But for me, I'd wager this is the first you are hearing of this rally. Why? Because the blitzkrieg unleashed by Azimio was that effective. And how do you respond to a blitzkrieg? You delay your attacker, you deny them the opportunity to attack, and you buy yourself some time. This means that the only way for RUTO to have responded was to have run away with his tail between his legs. But the value of breathing space may not be worth the opportunity costs of running away. So I ask, is it possible that something else motivated this calculus? Is it possible that RUTO has gone away to do more than schmooze American and British politicians? What else could he get up to when the Uhuru cat is away? We have at most 12 days to figure it out before it is figured out for us.
This weekend, I'll take us back to our columnists. Otieno wrote a piece in The Nation titled "The Real Power of Uhuru's One Vote for Raila." In his piece, Otieno argues that the public has been underestimating the power of President Kenyatta's one vote to its detriment. And I agree with him. Yes, the president has one vote, but his single vote belies something greater. According to Otieno, the real power of the president's one vote in the August 9 election lies in his heavy lifting in the negotiations between Raila and Kalonzo after the NASA breakup. For Otieno, the real power of the president's one vote lies in the Azimio-Oka Grand Coalition, not in his efforts to win votes for Raila in Mount Kenya. And Otieno says that nothing demonstrates the weight of the president's one vote better than Kalonzo's announcement on Friday that his One Kenya Alliance was finally ready to form a grand coalition with Raila's Azimio la Umoja movement. While it is true that nobody knows how to negotiate a handshake better than the president, reducing the president's one vote to boardroom negotiation diminishes its value. Uhuru Kenyatta's one vote is equal to 5 million votes, 5 million GEMA votes. Historically, Kenya has repeatedly voted along ethnic lines. Therefore, Uhuru Kenyatta's one vote brings with it the GEMA voting masses. And last week, we saw the GEMA masses in their numbers at Savannah and the Jubilee Party NDC. It was clear to the country that Jubilee was never dead. It was merely working.
Yeah.
And what really is the power of one vote? Well, one vote can win an election. In 1876, one vote gave Rutherford B. Hayes the presidency of the United States. His opponent, Samuel Tilden, had won the popular vote. Hayes got 4 million in the popular vote. Tilden got 4.3 million. But to become the president of the United States, you also need to win the votes of the Electoral College. And usually, the votes of the Electoral College align with the popular vote. But in this case, Hayes lost the popular vote but won the Electoral College vote by one vote. The final tally by the Electoral College was 184 votes for Tilden, 185 votes for Hayes. That single vote gave Hayes the presidency. So yes, Uhuru Kenyatta has one vote, but that one vote is equal to an Electoral College for GEMA voters. And that one vote from Uhuru Kenyatta will win Raila Odinga the presidency.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. Columnists have put you on notice. See you next Monday.